What is a legal scum hat is still happening in 2022, Story 1 Private prisons. You're telling me that they charge the government for the beds and the taxpayers still gotta foot the bill if those beds are empty so the company running it doesn't lose money? Fuck you. Here in Arizona in 2020 the governor announced the closing of the state prison in Florence as a cost-saving measure. It was costing the state $71 per prisoner/per day to operate. They've announced in the last week they are moving the inmates to a private prison that's going to cost the state $85 per prisoner per day to operate. Also, they're guaranteeing the private prison that they'll maintain at least 90% capacity, which is just another way of giving judges an incentive to find people guilty. Story 2 Look, OP, if you want to get in on some legal scam, you have to do your own research. That's why I recommend you buy my book, What You Can Do to Legally Become Rich in 12 Easy Lessons. Just 24 easy payments of $199.99 and you will have the secrets to being a millionaire unveiled right before your eyes. When I was young I fell for this scam. Found an ad on Craigslist offering a guide on making money online. Sent the guy $15 and he sent me a Word doc that basically said post an ad on Craigslist and if someone bites send them this doc. Story 3 Insider trading within Congress, but if we do it, we end up in prison. Martha Stewart sold stocks and made $45K and it was called insider trading. Politicians sell stocks and make millions and that's called a free market. Shit's fucked. Ironically, Martha Stewart did not do time for insider trading. Those charges were dropped due to lack of evidence. What she did do time for was lying to federal agents. This is a perfect example why you shouldn't talk to police. Always ask for a lawyer. Story 4 That news in America is entertainment. Can get away with saying pretty much anything and still call it news. It frustrates me how normal weasel words are in newscasts these days and how many people can't distinguish them easily. New studies show there may be a link between eating M&Ms and your hair color. Yeah, that also means it may not, but that doesn't get views. Story 5 If you're a personal business owner, you may receive what looks to be a bill in your mail from the U.S. Domain Authority. At first glance, you're under the impression that you need to pay $289 to renew your website domain name. However, there is very fine print stating that you are not legally required to pay the listed amount. It's actually an ad requesting you pay that amount in order to have your website listed on the U.S. Domain Authority site. I can't imagine how many people have been tricked by this. Read your mail. Carefully. Story 6 I recently moved and I keep getting a bunch of home warranty advertisements in the mail. Except they don't look like ads. The envelopes say things like final notice and the letters are printed on pink paper. When you open them they say things like, this is your final notice that your opportunity to purchase a home warranty from may be expiring. This shit is so fucked up. Story 7 Especially when you have to print them at home, with your own printer, paper, and ink. Don't tell that to HP and their printer subscription service with ink cartridges that get deactivated if you unsubscribe. I bought a non-HP non-Canon laser printer when I started working from home nearly 2 years ago March. I finally replaced the black starter toner a month ago and still have color toner left. Fucking carts that dry up 2% a day whether you use them or not. Edit getting a lot of asks. It's a Brother HLL 3210CW, but it might not be a current enough model to be at a reasonable price in stores. I have a Brother color laser that claimed it was out of black toner about 500 pages ago. I found a reset toner option in the menu and gave the toner a shake and it just continued spitting pages, though the black is beginning to look a bit faded by now. Oh, and it accepts third-party toner without complaining. I'm never going to replace the thing. I love it. Edit. RIP inbox. The model is a HL 3140CW. Edit 2. A year later and I have finally had to replace the toner. It cost me a grand total of $17 including shipping from China. Story 8 My personal testimonial of this. I'm not a big reading person, but when I picked up What You Can Do to Legally Become Rich in 12 Easy Lessons. Each lesson was only a paragraph long and used words even I could understand. I'd highly recommend this book. I'm so dedicated to this book that I even signed up to be their affiliate to save you 20% off your purchase. Use my promo code, Coffee in a Rocks Glass, Affiliate Partner 20, at checkout. Whoa! 20% is such a huge amount of savings. I know that you only have 7 affiliate spots and so thankful that I got your last spot. Because I'm such a team player though, I will be giving a 20% discount to the next 7 affiliates that signs up with me. Get this book now and you too can legally become rich like us. Story 9 Paying Services Charges. I don't mind paying a $10 delivery fee but will not pay a 99-cent service charge. Story 10 Civil Forfeiture. You're going to tell me that a cop thinks that my property might be used for illegal activity, and that cop is going to steal it from me and pad their department's bottom line. What the actual F enough people don't know about this. Unless you're one of the victims it happens to, then you're like WTF, the police just robbed me. Story 11 MLMs, I'm my own CEO. No, you aren't. You literally have a company telling you what you can and can't do. I worked at a legit company whose slogan was, be your own CEO. 6 months later I was fired basically for laziness, and I asked HR before I left if as my own CEO I could appeal the decision. They didn't even laugh. Imagine starting a company where you take responsibility for all of the expenses but get none of the revenue. My mom sold Mary Kay for years. They don't even let these poor employees advertise. You literally have to talk to random strangers and convince them to buy shit out of your trunk or invite you into their home for a party. Some of her friends/clients, because the only way to really sell this stuff is to prey on friends and relatives, would insist she drive an eyeliner to their home. Also, the pressure to convert those clients to sales reps is immense. If you don't make money. And the worst part is these things target single moms and others who are struggling. It's predatory, and the conferences justify it with pretty language that talks about how these women, and you, both benefits from the whole system. Oh, and it's definitely not an MLM for real. There's this one MLM, my wife actually likes one of the products enough to want to spend too much money on it, but it's just a single product she likes. She literally can't just buy the one product from her friend who sells it without her friend trying to convince her to become a seller for the discount. At what point is spending a minimum of $200 a month on random products a discount when you want a $40 product once every other month? I have a friend who sells some Korean creams. He gave us a sample for my wife to try and she actually liked it. We told him we wanted to place an order but he didn't let us. He wanted us to become sellers, to get it cheaper, even though we would have to spend $250 to have a 15% off or something like that. We didn't order anything at the end. Shrug. Haha, same things happened to me with Zija. It's some packet of energy mud water. Anyway, I wanted to buy some and he said I should sell. I immediately said no and I'd like to buy only, and we friendly argued for a while. In the end, he said he doesn't sell them but that I should. In front of 5 or so people I loudly said, why would I want to join a company if I can't even purchase from a sales rep? He backpedaled and gave up. I just wanted the dumb powder. I was on the board of a nonprofit community service organization. We busted our asses to raise funds for it. The organization founder/president started selling her Mary Kay stuff to the organization as care bags to give to mothers with special needs kids. Each care bag cost the organization $20 and we got suckered into packaging them for her. We ended up packaging and giving away 43 care bags. I didn't realize the stuff in the care bags were Mary Kay items till I got home. I just stopped going to the events and board meetings with no formal resignation from the board. Story 12 I distantly know 2 women that are serial MLM bosses. Every couple months they have these big social media announcements about how they used to live paycheck to paycheck, but can now take their family on vacations that I've always dreamed of. It's exhausting. Like, when are they going to learn? I have a friend who actually succeeded in the pyramid scheme dream. The products are all a scam, of course, But she managed to get into our town early and scam enough other ladies to rank up to King Diamond or whatever and make shitloads of money. It's wild. We haven't spoke to each other in 5 years. I'm sorry your mother has cancer. Let me tell you about how essential oils can cure everything. Sadly, my friend is desperate and fell for an MLM. She plans to leave it in a couple of months. Her ambassadors seems nice, use a bunch of hypey catchphrases, and use a bunch of buzzwords. I'm sure when she tries leaving they'll do a 180 degrees and she'll owe thousands. The thing is, she just joined another MLM before leaving this one. Story 13: The Troubled Teen Industry. It doesn't work. It traumatizes children. It's legal kidnapping. I hope more attention comes to it and something happens. They're a business and the goal is to make money, not help troubled teenagers. FFS, half the time the kids aren't even troubled. E.T.A. The troubled teen industry refers to for-profit organizations aimed at steering rebellious and at-risk youth onto a better path through reform camps. But their methods are tough love, negative/positive punishments and physical labor. Because it's a business meant to make money, a lot of corner cutting happens. They hire young and untrained staff for less pay rather than therapists and certified nurses and teachers. It's also not regulated at all, so they can effectively do whatever they want with little recourse. They use scared straight tactics and beat kids into obedience. They claim the best way to send a kid there is by surprise, so they don't try and run beforehand, aka burst into their room at 2 a.m. and drag them into a van with very few belongings. Look up Elon School for a notorious one. Paris Hilton was kidnapped at 2 a.m. and sent to Provo Canyon when she was 16. Look at how well that worked. Go through this thread for some horror stories. Edit 2. Thank you to everyone who clarified the difference between reinforcement and punishment. I've been using the terms interchangeably. Grinning face with sweat. I went to one of those places in the 1990s. In Utah, where those schools are really popular because apparently they have very lax child protection laws. They had all these brochures showing kids horseback riding and swimming on an estate with sweeping green lawns like Professor Xavier's school. LOL, no, the real facility was an old church that had been converted into dorms. Girls had a series of shared attic rooms, boys had the ground floor. The school wasn't even a school. We had to basically teach ourselves from textbooks while sitting at desks set up in the basketball court at night. They'd have one teacher there, but they didn't teach, just gave us tests and monitored us. They had solitary confinement that they'd use if you got in trouble, which they called the ISU, Intensive Supervision Unit. I saw all sorts of messed up shit there. One of my most vivid memories is that they brought a new kid in who was a heroin addict. Instead of getting him medical treatment for withdrawal, they threw him in the ISU and basically just made him sweat it out all week with no help. The ISU was right outside the female dorms, so we could hear his yells and crying echoing around day and night. It was horrific. As an adult, I handle prison litigation, and have seen multiple in-custody deaths caused that way. Heroin withdrawal itself isn't lethal but can cause death from secondary symptoms like extreme dehydration, or blood loss from esophageal tearing. The kid could have died. He sounded like he was dying sometimes. But that's the type of shit they get away with at these places. I've also heard of them refusing to give people their high school transcripts years later. There has been some litigation about that. I have so many stories. Edit for shits and giggles, I googled them. They are still operating, and their website shows a picture of this huge, elegant building, which is absolutely not the real place as their address hasn't changed. Looks like they're still at it. Story 14: Ticketmaster. WTF is a handling fee when I am the one handling my own phone. Edit, I was just making a flip smartass answer to the scam question. I had no idea it was this much of a problem. LOL. Grinning squinting face. Ticketmaster actually had a class action lawsuit where they had to pay out $400 million USD to 50 million ticket buyers due to order processing fees and UPS delivery fees that were apparently bogus and weren't actually spent on anything specific. There's an interesting article Vox wrote about ticket fees and why they're so arbitrary. There was an FTC panel where multiple industry reps talked about it. Recommend reading it if you want the DL on the whole thing. Interesting thing is that supposedly, all-in pricing, aka being upfront about fees and showing the full price of a ticket including fees, lost StubHub business after they experimented with doing it, so that might have something to do with why the fees continue to be hidden when you're buying concert tickets. Story 15: Congress being able to pick stocks while regular people can't, either because of the industry they're in or because their 401k is just some mutual fund with high fees. The most powerful people in our country, legislators, can play with the stock market as they please. Doesn't matter how much inside information they have, rules for thee not for me. The very people that benefit from this are the people that would have to vote to stop it. Story 16: Congress officials being allowed to trade stocks. This on so many levels. I worked for a large accounting firm in the US. I was IT for the S&P basically. My dad and MIL could not hold stocks in certain business while I worked there. But Congress can buy and sell on anything they are making laws about. Story 17: If debt collectors can trick a grieving person into uttering words that imply you take responsibility for your dead relative's debts, that can be treated as a binding oral contract and allow them to collect from you. Edit. I've gotten a lot of replies saying this is unenforceable in pretty much any jurisdiction. They just make you believe that's the case so they can increase the pressure for you to pay. Don't give them a dime and go talk to a lawyer. You should do that anyway before following legal advice from someone who may not even be in your country. In my country you legally can't inherit debt. Can't believe that's not the norm everywhere. All creditors must share whatever is left in the estate. Used to work in debt collection. Hi, I'm a lawyer. This isn't true. There's this thing called the statute of frauds. It's a common law contract doctrine that dictates certain types of contracts need to be in writing for them to be enforceable. A surety is when a third person makes a promise to a creditor to pay the debts of another, and under the statute of frauds a surety must be in writing. So no, an oral promise to pay the debts of the other, alive or deceased, cannot be treated as a binding or enforceable oral contract. Story 18: Had something quite similar happen to us. I had an uncle-in-law who habitually would buy things on credit and never pay for them. Unfortunately, his name and the name of my then husband were the same. We'd get hounded by debt collectors all the time for his uncle's debts. Some of the debt collectors were understanding. All we had to do was explain the situation, that we weren't the John Doe that we're looking for and we had never lived at X address, and we'd never hear from them again. Unfortunately, his uncle moved around a lot to avoid creditors, so we never knew his current address to turn over to a debt collector. Others were more aggressive and would press the matter, sometimes rudely. At that point, I'd ask, "What's the name and address you have associated with this debt?" They'd usually lie and give back our name and address. At that point, I'd call them out on their lies. "You're lying right now. This isn't our debt, it's our uncle's debt, and you know it. We never bought these things and you're lying, trying to get us to pay for someone else's debt, because you're too lazy to do the footwork to get the name and address of the real debtor. If you call us again, I'll submit the name of your agency to the State Attorney General's office and file an official complaint for harassment." That always took care of it. We'd never hear back from them again. United States here. Story 19: Charging for parking in hospitals and clinics. Also charging people money to withdraw money or because they have small, positive balances in their bank accounts, additionally charging patients in hospitals for TV service. Their bills are high enough, but you want to add $8 per day to not have to sit in silence for 23 hours a day. The hospital where I work technically charges for parking, but they give parking vouchers like free candy to any patients or visitors. I think it is to keep people from using the hospital ramp and then going somewhere else. Story 20 Health Insurance in America. I spend $600 a month to cover myself and my son and have never walked into a medical appointment without a $200 to $300 bill showing up in the mail. It seems since I can afford insurance, then I get charged more for services after the insurance company negotiates prices down. I'm a single father making 15/HR insurance is more than rent and my car payment combined. I had a baby in September. When I added her to my insurance, I went from paying the asinine amount of $93 a week to now $200 a week. They give a discount for being uninsured, including giving the same vaccines at a cheaper price. It would be cheaper for me to go without and pay out of pocket if I could guarantee no emergency situations arise, but since that can't be guaranteed, I'm losing over 1/3 of my income for insurance that I'll still have a copay and bills from. Story 21 Extended warranties on vehicles. Good luck getting them to pay. The manufacturer-backed extended warranties are worth the money. The rest are near worthless. Years ago I did get a shitty one to pay for a failed transmission, but I did the tech support for the shop that was doing the repair, and the owner flat out told me if it hadn't been someone he knew, he would have given up and told the customer they needed to pay. The company asked him for an insane amount of pictures and documentation, then made him wait almost 2 weeks for their own mechanic to come look at it, then took another week to authorize the repair, then took forever to actually pay him. Story 22 USA tax-paying system. Paraphrasing, we know how much you owe, but we want you to calculate it, and you have to get it correct under pain of prison or paying too much. Oh, and the whole process is more complicated than it needs to be because of private interests. Story 23 My kid's school charges a $3 internet fee if you want to refill their cafeteria cards via the website. If you do it in person, there's no fee. If they feel they have to charge a fee, shouldn't it be the other way around, since if you use their website you aren't taking up anyone's time? Don't forget the DMV and other government agencies that are also doing this same thing whenever you need to get a license, a permit, etc. If anything, it should be cheaper because they don't need to pay someone to sit there and take your cash in person, or sit in an office and process paper checks. Story 24 University fees. I have to not only pay for my classes and admin fees, I have to pay for 2 separate student union fees, a technology fee, an online processing fee, and a recreation and athletic fee, despite the fieldhouse being entirely closed due to COVID. Story 25 Like 90% of all crypto companies out there, buy ETH through us and guarantee a return. They are all either pump and dump, or pyramid schemes. The only 2 coins that have some basis are Bitcoin and ETH, and even then I wouldn't touch that intangible shite with a 10-foot pole. But I can see the appeal. I mean, there is a structural difference between the two. Hoping that the price of a useless asset will increase in the short term so you can leave someone else holding the bag isn't quite the same as a literal pyramid scheme. Make that 100%. Cryptocurrency has proven why having a central authority is in fact really useful. Yeah, I've gotten to the point where I'm basically anti-crypto, and I used to tout that shit. It's just another way for speculators to make money while using an absolutely obscene amount of energy and fucking over the GPU market. It was better when it was just for drugs. Crypto brothers, regulation is bad. Crypto is so great because there's no central authority and no one regulates it. Elon Musk tweets something that causes the value of some cryptocurrency to drop. Crypto brothers, why is this legal? Why don't anyone do anything? The SEC should get involved and investigate. Honestly, a digital US dollar would be great. No banks and their fees, no credit cards and their fees, just a digital wallet. Of course, it'll never happen, but why can't we have the convenience of cash and a card? There are companies out there striving to improve upon our conventional finance system. DeFi, in particular, allows folks without significant capital to utilize financial instruments typically reserved for only the most wealthy. A small number of crypto projects are actually trying to do something worthwhile. Most of them are scams built on an already existing network using copied code and providing zero value to the world. 90% is probably an underestimation. Story 26. I am too late for this to be seen probably, but I'll post it anyway. I once accidentally clicked something on the internet and unbeknownst to me signed up to some crappy subscription for £15 a month. The subscription was basically a monthly spam email about something uninteresting that went unnoticed. It was somewhere between 6 to 12 months before I noticed I was paying this company money, as I thought it was my Wi-Fi bill showing up on my direct debit record. I googled the company name. It was a company in Macclesfield or Mansfield if I remember correctly. Straight away the reviews were all saying it's a scam. Hard to cancel the direct debit, etc. Phoned my bank, who informed me the company was known to them but had always stayed within the law and I'd be extremely lucky to get any money refunded. Bank also said that I needed the company to stop the subscription as they couldn't do it. I found the customer service number for this company. Straight away was told by the automated voice lady that it was £1 something a minute to be on the phone to them, which infuriated me as I was having to pay even more money to get them to stop scamming me. Anyway, I got put on hold after a minute or so of ringing. The icing on the cake was the on hold song was The Streets, Dry Your Eyes Mate. At that point I laughed to myself and applauded their sheer cheek. I got played well. Story 27. I am not sure if there's an actual name for it, but the practice of banks where they prioritize your automatic payments in order of highest to lowest so that you're more likely to overdraw earlier, and then they can slap on their overdrawn fees for each consecutive payment that attempts to go through. For example, you have $600 in your account and have 6 automatic payments coming out. They prioritize the $400 loan payment first, then the $120 car insurance, then $50 internet, $50 cell phone, $50 utilities, $50 renter's insurance. You now owe $90 in overdrawn fees, are late on 3 bills, and are mostly broke. If they'd have prioritized the last 5 first, then the loan payment, you'd have $280 left, a bill you're late on, and $30 in overdrawn fees. It's so fucking scummy. Story 28. The housing market. So many corporations are buying up houses and then jacking up rent. Construction and real estate industries. And then you have builders that build small, cheap units that won't stand the test of time because corners are being cut. And real estate agents trying to line their own pockets with bidding wars and creating a sense of scarcity and urgency. Story 29. Automatic tipping at fast food places. I mean, I get leaving a tip at a sit-down restaurant where a waiter or waitress is taking care of you, but if I go to Chipotle and get a bowl and they automatically add a 20% tip, that's a lot of money. I might consider a tip if they could add cheese last so the guac doesn't stick to the lid. Big OOF, Panera has it on the screen where you pay to add a tip and the options are percentages in big squares, then a tiny one at the bottom that says no. Not on the app either. I'm talking walk in and order and pay. Like, why would I be tipping to get my food on a tray and go sit down and get my own drink and that's the end of the service? I used to get nervous and not see the little square and not want to hold up the line, so just clicked one. Bullshit. Story 30. Funeral homes. Or to specify for the dunces among us, unethical funeral homes chasing profit at the expense of bereaved people. The amount of leeching done to grieving people just boils my blood. We paid nearly $30,000 to bury my parents, and I hear we got a good price. I would prefer to be cremated in the backyard during a big barbecue and my ashes sent home with the guests so I can haunt them. Story 31. I used to go to the ticket gate to get tickets, to circumvent the fee, but now the ticket office is only open when another concert is going on. It really pisses me off. I'm looking at a downtown concert in the summer, and hoping that their ticket office actually has predictable hours. Story 32. Not being able to vote where our tax dollars go, using tax dollars to pay thousands of politicians around the country when all they do is get paid 6 figures, live in glorious mansions, drive sick cars, and argue all day and get nothing done. Story 33. Working for the current minimum wage. I just wanted to have kept up with inflation. That is probably around 22.5 per hour IRC. The hardest jobs I've ever had was my lowest paying job, Healthcare in the USA. When you work at a hospital and see the fuckery that happens, you get even more mad. Student debt in its current state. I know physicians who can't pay those loans off because the interest is just too high. They've been paying for 10 years and still have their original principal loan amount. Those are just 3 things that make me the most mad right now. Story 34. I will never give up the fight that all insurance itself is a scam. It should be a straightforward process. I pay you amount of money, and in exchange, if something bad happens, like I get in an accident and need emergency surgery, you cover all the expenses and possible inconveniences. That's literally what insurance should be. There no who's at fault, or this or that, no deductibles, nothing. That's the way it should be. To be straightforward and make sense. And it should be that way with medical, auto, home, renters, etc. It's been filled with so much legal jargon and nonsense. It's the biggest hassle now, and they take way too much money for what we get. Not to mention now you're legally required to have it to drive and do other things. Which is also wrong. It needs to be an option we can choose to have, not a necessary part of life. If you take the choice out of insurance, then it becomes even more of a money-sucking operation and defeats the point of having it to cover you in the instance that something happens. There's no good side to having it anymore. You just have to now. The only way it should be is if you hit my car but I pay insurance, then they cover my fees and repairs and help with any legal troubles. And if I don't have insurance, then that's all on me to figure it out. That's all it should be. Especially with the prices they're charging, and even now it's been shown and proven that healthcare shouldn't even be an insurance matter. It should as simple as we all get healthcare. You're not well. Go to the doctor and get well, and then come back when you are well, without fear of losing all your money. Story 35. Civil asset forfeiture by police departments. If you're suspected of a crime, the police can confiscate property used in it. The case is against the property, not against you, so the presumption of innocence doesn't apply, and the burden is on you to go to court to try to get your stuff back. When people actually try to get their stuff back, it's almost impossible. The police can and do pull people over, say they think they're trafficking drugs, take their car, sell it and pocket the money. Are you carrying cash? We think that's drug money, so we're confiscating it. The police steal more from civilians every year than all burglaries combined. Story 36. Modern art collecting as an easy route to evade taxes. Wealthy person buys painting of Black Line for $20,000, have art appraiser friend appraise for $1.2 million, donate painting to museum or nonprofit, write off over $1 million in losses, zero taxes, celebrate Black Line like it's an amazing and deeply moving piece. Story 37 inches. The United States. The military industry, Congress members making a kill on stock, Israel selling our military tech to China, the for-profit medical system, civil forfeiture of assets by the police, which now surpasses actual theft, tax-exempt religious organizations, nonprofits with employees making absurd salaries, the wealthy being able to leverage theoretical money such as the potential value of stocks to gain further wealth through lending, without facing taxation on this theoretical wealth, the lack of rights to repair. Shit, I could keep going for days.